Welcome back to another episode of Canescast, everybody. I am your host, Garrett Halsey. Well, in this episode, we're going to touch on a few things. One, we had the Army All-America game go ahead and be played. There was 5 future Miami Hurricanes going ahead and playing and showing off their skill set in that game. Then I will talk about the transfer quarterback that Miami just picked up in the Reese Poffenbarger from the University of Albany at the FCS level and what that means to the future Miami Hurricanes in 2024 and maybe beyond. And then there was a new national champion in the Michigan Wolverines. I will touch a little bit about that national championship game and what I think, how it relates to us in particular. Then there was a couple big coaching shakeups, one in the college ranks and then one in the pro game. I just want to talk a little bit about that to end the show today. So thank you again, guys, for tuning in and being a part of the fun group that we have here for Canescast, and we appreciate all the viewers that we are gaining each and every week. So let's start with the Army All-America game. There was the 5 players that were in that game that will be future Miami Hurricanes. There was West Side that had Justin Scott and Marquise Lightfoot, both out of the Chicago area. And then the East Side, which had Zaquan Patterson, Nye Carr, and Derek Plaz playing for that team. The West did win. They were able to kind of go up a little bit early. Again, somewhat like the the Under Armour All-America game. But in this, the Army All-America game, it actually got a lot closer at the end. The East did make a little bit of a comeback to make it a lot closer by the end. So the standout of the game was Marquise Lightfoot of the 5. He was able to get 2 sacks in the game, which is, just like Booker Pickett in the other game that, you like to see those guys when they have the ability to put good stats on against supreme talent in a game like this. That shows really well that they have a great deal of potential. And Marquise Lightfoot is an early enrollee, so he will have the ability to get in, get working on his. I think he needs to put a little weight on. They say around 215 was his build. You could definitely tell he's got a great frame, good size, but definitely needs to bulk up a little bit if he's going to have a great deal of long success early on in his career. On the defensive line, you just got to be a nice big fella because it's a grind. That's probably one of the more physical places to play in football. So having that that weight helps you and that strength helps you, especially when you want to get playing time in the freshman year. But a whole lot of ability. He's very quick. He was able to duck underneath the tackle several times to get to that edge, and that's where he was making his presence felt. So great player. Super excited about him. His guy that was a lot of times lined up right next to him was Justin Scott. He didn't have any sacks, maybe a couple assisted tackles as a defensive tackle. That's a lot of where your statistics will look like. But you certainly can make your presence felt by being in that position, and I think he's got a great deal of potential. A guy that's 6'4", around 300 pounds, maybe a little on the plus side of that. One play in particular I really loved was on a punt. He looks like he's the gunner coming right down the middle of the field and ends up bumping into our other future Hurricane, Zaquan Patterson, on the play, and kind of got right around Zaquan in that particular where you got Zaquan, who's used to being in the back defensive backfield, should be very good in space, and looked to me like the big fella almost kind of went like around him like he wasn't even there. So that type of skill set he's on special teams, playing in these kind of atmospheres, getting all the experience possible. He played quite a bit in the defensive line. So I love everything as far as potential from Justin Scott that you're seeing. He's not an early enrollee, so I don't know that week 1, week 2, week 3 he'll be a huge presence. He very well could. I think it'll take a little bit more during the latter part of the season because he will be coming in the summer and then for fall camp, getting ready to make a name for himself. But love both of their potential. On the east side, let's talk about Derek Plaz, because him and Justin Scott ended up facing off several times. Plaz, I thought, was kind of more of a tackle as far as his ratings and everything, but he slid down into guard. Most oftentimes, I believe he was lined up as the left guard. So him and Justin Scott were actually getting several times where they were, in the same space, future teammates squaring off against each other. I thought Derek Plaz looked really good. A guy that maybe hadn't played guard a lot. Everything of 6'5", around 280-ish, could be very well, could be up to the 300 pounds. when he gets to go ahead and play. But I liked what I saw from him as far as potential. He looks like he's, he had grit. He had nice quick steps. I think he got beat in some plays, but as a guy that maybe is trying a new position, what would you expect? But I love the guy, willing to do what he could for the team and to get it on the field and playing. On the offensive line, it's really, you very rarely have a guy that Francis Malinois that goes and plays day one, lines up at a big position like that, especially on the outside edge, and plays. More oftentimes you get a little bit of development. You play maybe inside where you got protection on the inside and outside of you, and then developing as you get bigger. But I like what Derek Plaza is bringing to the table. On that east side, again, we talked a little bit about Zaquan Patterson. I think he's definitely is one of those guys that as he fills out and gets a little more bulk on his frame, that will help him immensely if he's going to play safety. Maybe he gets on the field early and plays cornerback. I don't really recall that him having a great deal of statistical influence on the game, but he was on the field, number 16, and you just love the fact that he was again playing special teams in that play, particularly that I talked about. Him and Justin Scott ended up meeting up on the field. A big size difference there, but he definitely looks like a guy, and everything you hear is that he's a playmaker. He's willing to play in the box, outside, and I think his skill set is definitely going to be there. The last guy I want to talk about, Nye Carr. They were actually going to him a couple times in the end zone. So the first one was on their first drive, a drive that ends up being a touchdown to another guy. I don't even want to sit here and give him credit because he didn't come to the Miami Hurricanes. But earlier in that drive, it was Nye Carr that had done kind of a corner route. And if the ball's there, he was open. He had separation. He could have very well easily had been that the East side's first touchdown. You would love to see that on the film in this stage. But the pass wasn't there. But Nye Carr, he did actually have a little bit of an injury thing that came up early in the week. So just, good on him being good enough to get on the field. Maybe even if he wasn't 100%, going ahead and gutting it out and playing and still showing that, even in a setting like that, he's 100% capable of getting, making big plays. They went to him later in the game. Pass that did go his way when he corner routed again, or kind of more of a flat route on that one. The guy that ended up knocking the ball down played really well in that game. He had a couple really good plays. A kid that ends up going to Minnesota. Got to give that guy a lot of credit because that play was there. There was a little separation, but he recovered well, got in the way of that pass. So no touchdown for Nye Carr, even though there were a couple of balls thrown his way with potential. But again, for a guy, not a huge guy, I think, again, he'll come in, play some slot, if he gets to play early on in the year into 2024. So great showing for all five of the Hurricanes. Top that with the four guys that got to play in the Under Armour All-America game. You got to be really excited about the future of Miami Hurricanes football with those guys. That's not all the class, of course, but that's a lot of times kind of the upper echelon guys, the higher rated guys getting all show something. I thought every single one of them was, not stat wise, but showed that they belong at that level and definitely belonged in those games. And everything in those settings is good for experience. It's just like playing a real college football game, because you're gonna go against guys that are gonna have early impacts on their respective teams in the next year and a couple of years to come. So great showing from both games. So now we'll touch on the quarterback situation. We have a new quarterback, Reese Poffenbarger from the University of Albany in the FCS level. Montana got to play in the FCS championship. They lost to South Dakota State, who beat University of Albany in the semifinal game. So, a great deal of experience as far as being on the field at a level that I'm not sitting here and telling you that at FCS level, even plays are more or less. I would take those high school all-star games over FCS level competition, because I just don't think that, if he can throw for 7,000 yards in his FCS career, I don't know that translates directly into major D1 college football. But I love he's got a very athletic guy. He's not 6'1". I think he's around 6 foot. 200-ish pounds. There's some film out there of him throwing down some dunks. So he's certainly even at the height got the potential with great athleticism. So I like I like him being brought into the forefront. I still say if it's my preference, it's really this guy's job to lose, Jakari Brown's. I think if you go get the two of them, I think they both really have the same potential as far as athleticism. I just think Jakari Brown brings a little more of that prototype size. You know, and again, when you want to be, you have that dual threat capability. I think it goes into your advantage to be a bigger fella. You know, because you're going to run some short runs with the quarterback, and I think that wears down the linebackers, defensive linemen, safeties, especially when they're hitting a guy much bigger than them. Reese Poffenbarger, I certainly think could be right there as far as the athletic game, but I do think he wouldn't hold up as well over the course of an entire season. So what I do think is that this is a depth piece, a great depth piece. I don't want to sit here and say I don't think he's even potential. I think it's going to be a competition. Jakari Brown, I think, goes in with the kind of the first team reps if it's me, and then I give Reese Poffenbarger a chance to show what he's capable of. Emory Williams is, by all accounts, going to be able to make it back to spring football from the upper arm fracture that he suffered in the Florida State game. I think he's going to be right in there in that competition. The coaches think very highly of him to get him on the field as a freshman, and he I don't think wowed me in any one of those games he played, but he's certainly somebody that the coaches feel like they can rely on. I think he looks like he's got a little bit of spunk to him. You know, I think he can galvanize a team and get the players around him to play well. I just don't think he brings quite the athleticism that Jakari Brown does. He's got great size. As you saw when he went in and ran ran around to get that big first down, he ended up injured against Florida State. So I think that will come into effect. If it's me and I say the perfect world, Jakari Brown goes ahead and wins the quarterback job. We got Reese Poffenbarger to come in should anything go wrong and bring his athleticism on the field and show that. And then Emory Williams, if it's my perfect world, he takes this next year, maybe gets in a couple games again, and then keeps developing, but maybe red shirts and then brings that even more to the next year after that, and really pushes either of these two guys, both these guys on the screen have multiple years of eligibility, as well as Emory Williams would, as well as there's a quarterback coming in I will touch on real quick, Judd Anderson. He's going to be a true freshman, a big kid. I do believe he is coming in early, so that will be good to get him in on the field. You know, I've read somewhere that he's got some athleticism to him, so he's not as highly rated. So I don't know that he comes in with a whole lot of hoopla, but who knows? That's why competitions are what they are. I think every one of these guys will get a chance to show and take over the team. So I'd say if it's me, I think he redshirts and then brings multiple years of eligibility going forward, and then really brings that competition level up even farther, because he's a very big kid. I guess he's like 6'6", 200 pounds. So then that's kind of what I see playing out as far as the 2024 Miami Hurricanes with the addition. And that's why I got both these guys up on the screen. I think that's what we will see is a big time quarterback competition going forward. And I hope every one of these guys all stick around to go into the 2024 season. I feel much better about the team as a whole if that is the case. So let's talk a little bit about national champions. We have the Michigan Wolverines are the national champion of 2023. So they are going to be the last champion of the 4-team playoff. There was a lot of talk about who deserved to be in the last 4 teams this year. Well, they're taking care of that. Next year, there's 12 teams that will get a chance to put their name in the national champion ring, and I do think that's probably the right way to go with where college football is. I did personally think Alabama was going to go ahead and win that national championship based on having that athletic quarterback, the guy that I've seen other places. Gets a little bit of Jakari Brown. I'm not saying it's Jalen Milroe, but I think you get a lot of that comparison because of their size and athleticism and what they bring to the game. And in my defense, I was not right about calling Alabama's national championship, but they did take the national champion to overtime and were actually ahead very late in that game based on one thing alone, and that was Jalen Milroe's athleticism. He wasn't passing the ball well. Things were just not going well for Alabama offensively, but they were in a position to beat the eventual national champions because of one thing alone, and that was just when it boils down to it, as good as the defense was, Michigan's was, they almost were able to be stifled by a guy because his running ability was the difference in that game. So hats off to Michigan. Deserved their national championship, an undefeated team, 15 wins. That's extremely hard to do. So you got to give them credit. They had some off-field things going on all season long. Is their head coach sticking around? Is he moving on? We'll find out. As of the filming of this show, he is still the Michigan head coach. But that will lead us into somebody who did go ahead and decide to hang up their whistle, and that is Alabama's head coach Nick Sabin. He's decided that as the filming of the show just one day ago to go ahead and retire. I think that will have ripple effects across college football. If it's me, I'm going to call Dabo Swinney goes ahead and fills that head coaching vacancy. As the filming of the show, I've been doing this for several minutes. Last I saw, there was no replacement in line. That's who I'll put my hat in the ring of calling anything in the future. I think that's Dabo Swinney's job. He was a walk-on receiver there long ago, and then does fit very well into, I think, replacing Nick Saban. So I think that will have some effect in the Miami Hurricanes world, that Clemson still being in our conference. I do think they will probably, if he, obviously Dabo moves on, that they will be looking for a new head coach. Who do they get to go fill in that vacancy? So Nick Saban has you can't argue with the results. Whether he was doing it all by the book or not all these years doesn't matter anymore. He's moved on, and he won a great deal of national championships. He has put his program where I hope to see the Miami Hurricanes again one day. What we had been in their latter 90s into the early 2000s, and then even long before that, mid to late 80s. He put his program at the top of college football every single year. They were always in contention. So that's what you want to get to as far as a good deal of success. So Nick Saban moving on. Big things I think will shift, especially with the Michigan head coaching job. Who's to say what goes on there? So many more things we'll cover in the future episodes, probably about the coaching changes. But then the last one we'll talk about in the pro football game. Bill Belichick decides to move on. Again, a team I've never rooted for, but another team I will sit here and give my tip my cap to, because you can't argue with success. Whether it was all again done by the book or not, doesn't matter. The results are what they are. The trophies are in the case. You can't ever take those away. They did everything that it took to get those games won, and him moving on at this stage of his career, maybe he takes another job to go for the all-time wins record. But again, that job and subsequent jobs that will domino after that, who knows what ends up happening in the college and pro football coaching carousel. So that's really what I wanted to cover in Canescast this week, guys. Next week, we'll probably talk about what's going to transpire in the upcoming days. We'll talk a little bit about the NFL playoffs. Wild card weekend is a couple of days to come. I'll put it out here. I think this is the Baltimore Ravens year. What I keep talking about, a game you got to get into is you got to have a guy that can dominate on the run, on the throw, and that is, I think Lamar Jackson is playing very well. He's not playing perfect, but I think he's so dangerous, and I think Ravens really have a great defense, and they get a little time to rest up, get their running backs that have really been coming up big, a chance to go ahead and heal up a little bit and be really dangerous and get those games won in the playoffs, because this is big time. That's probably what we'll cover next week, is a little bit more of what the NFL playoffs results were in the first week, and then we'll just take every week as it comes. As of right now, the Miami Hurricane basketball team did have a little bit of a slip. I think they got 2 losses in a row now. I believe they let up at Wake Forest and lost to Louisville. The basketball team didn't end up going where we hoped when we talked about them a little bit earlier in a couple episodes ago. But you still got a lot of season left ahead of you. But things aren't looking great as far as the Miami Hurricanes men's basketball team. So things we'll also probably cover in the next episode. So again, thank you guys for new subscribers tuning in. Those of you that keep returning and watching every week, we're definitely moving up as far as our action on the channel. So I can't thank you guys enough. It's always great to be a Miami Hurricane. Look forward to speaking with you guys again next week. Thanks, guys.